always with the height jokes. Also, on behalf of my parents and my brothers and my nephews, there are several people we would like to thank. Malvern has been mentioned. You've been so gracious and loyal, and it's been wonderful for us. I'd also like to thank Mike's colleagues at Lawrenceville, who offered caring assistance in the immediate and ensuing aftermath of Mike's death, and who have made a happy new home for him and his boys. We also want to thank Father McLaughlin. While Mike went to Malvern, myself and Bea and Tim and Linda, the boys' mom, all went to Archmere. And so to have a familiar face is deeply comforting to our family, and I know especially to my mom, so thank you, Father. Finally, I want to say thank you to our cousin John Ellis of O'Leary Funeral Home, whose sensitivity, sincere efforts, and grace has made such a difficult time a little bit more bearable. Before I get into my remarks about Mike, I just did want to remind everyone that there will be a reception following this service at Waynesboro Country Club, and we invite you all to attend that from about 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock or so. There actually will be a podium and microphone there for anyone who wishes to share a fond memory or a funny story about Mike. We hope you will. So some of you might know that in addition to being a school administrator, I've been an English teacher for a lot of years. And as I considered my words about my brother, images and memories that came to mind when I thought about it a little bit more deeply seemed replete with irony. Tim, replete means filled up. Irony, likely you know, is loosely defined as the opposite outcome of what might be expected, and it often has a clever or unexpected twist to it. My first overriding memory I have of Mike is that of a protector. He was much bigger than I was, and even though we're only 1 year apart in age, there was about a 3 to 4 year gap in hand-me-down time. I found that there really wasn't much use for jams, OP corduroy shorts, and husky-sized parachute pants in college. So there's nothing there. In most ways, however, the size differential worked to my benefit. I remember one time, I think it was maybe 5th or 6th grade, for some reason I was getting picked on the bus by this dude who lived in the neighborhood over named Jeff Stang. Now, in retrospect, that's actually a pretty great name, Jeff Stang, right? And even though he was in middle school, it felt like he might have been driving a Mustang at the time. In any event, Mike got wind of it, that this kid was giving me a hard time. I just remember him, this image of Mike walking to the back of the bus where this kid was sitting, looming over Jeff Stang, muttering something inaudible to me, the color draining from Jeff's face. And that was the end of my bus problems. Mike was the quintessential big brother in that way. Besides the hand-me-downs, though, there were times when the size advantage, Mike's size advantage, was not a benefit to me. And that was typically when it was aimed at me or on me. I have this other memory from when I was 10 and Mike was 11. And I know my mom will remember this one too. It was a typical, I think, Sunday morning Donnybrook in the rec room, probably a knee football game gone bad. But Mike was pretty much ragdolling me around the rust-colored shag carpet, when all at once, from my knees, I came with a howling right cross and connected right with his hip bone. Now, I knew right away that I was hurt, and I ended up breaking my hand. And I knew right away that he was hurt from the look, and he ended up sort of crouching over me with his fist in the air like this. And I'll never forget it. And I looked up at him and I said, no, I'm hurt! I'm hurt! And so his, freckled, furious countenance kind of changed from anger to skepticism to resignation. He dropped his fist and let me up, and I'll never forget that. The irony, number one, of course, is Mike was always my protector. Ironically, even when he was beating the shit out of me. Sorry, Father. Forgive my language. Timmy started it. As we grew into adolescence, Mike and I admittedly drifted apart. We went to different schools. We had different friends and interests. And let's be honest, 4 growing boys, born 5 years apart, living in a modest Delco split level with 1 shower, fighting over the last Devil Dog or Capri Sun, that can foment some conflict and resentment. But in the ensuing years, Mike chose Dickinson College, and eventually we all followed. Fittingly, Hick was a fullback, and he led the way to that wonderful school, clearing a path for us to lasting friendships and shared experiences. He was always our blocker. And so, we 4 had an opportunity to truly get to know one another and become friends in addition to brothers. That decision, which Michael once again influenced, enriched our lives not only in our relationships with one another, but with the common experience and expansive friendships that followed. And so ironically, it took us leaving home and becoming fraternity brothers to fully realize our brotherhood. Big Hick gave us that. Mike was an amazing baseball coach. You need only look at some of the comments posted on his obituary site to understand the outsized impact he had in so many people's lives through the baseball diamond. Ironically, his boys play lacrosse. And quite well, I might add. Nevertheless, Mike simply learned a new game and applied the wisdom he had gained over so many years coaching other people's children to his own. He typified the notion that good coaching is far more than X's and O's. It's about patience, a competitive spirit, and mostly about building trusting relationships. He was a natural at that. We heard from me that it began when he was a child. He cared deeply for his players and students. He had a big heart. Those who are close with Michael and our family know that he was not without his struggles. Michael battled alcoholism in his adult life, and at its worst, it had profound impacts on his personal and professional lives, as well as his health. But Mike, inspired by the love of his 4 boys and supported unconditionally by our parents, he battled against them. He battled courageously to get his life back on track, and he reestablished himself as an incredible teacher, coach, and father, returning to a life that was happy, sober, and successful. But that battle he waged was not without its costs. It left scars and irreparable physical damage. And so it made him susceptible to an insidious 100-year pandemic that would ultimately contribute to his untimely death. So I believe it is once again ironic that an illness that is often accompanied by shame, misunderstanding, and a desire for discretion is something for which he should be celebrated. For overcoming it embodies courage, willpower, and love. None of us who loved him should ever be ashamed of the disease that he grappled with, but proud of him for the tremendous fortitude he showed in combating it. When my brothers and I were at our worst as kids, driving our mom crazy, also known as Saturday in our house, she used to scream all the time, "I hope you all have 4 boys that are just like you someday!" And while at the moment, it was a Franco-Celtic curse of retribution and forewarning, as I look upon on Mike's wonderful 4 sons, who each in their own way are very much just like him. It's nothing but a blessing. Boys, you've lost a father, but you've gained 3 surrogate fathers. It's not an even trade, but I promise you with all my heart, we got you. As we were growing up, your father loved us, protected us, and made us feel safe and cared for. And we'll do the same for you, because we learned from the best. The thing about irony is that it offers a lens through which one can view life more richly, more warily, more humorously. We keep an eye out for it. It can tune us into hypocrisy, remind us to be ready for the unexpected, create comic relief. And unfortunately, it can signal cruel realities of life that are beyond anyone's control. And yet, a hopeful, archetypal irony, archetypal means universality. A hopeful, archetypal irony abounds at times like this. It's the notion that something so horrible and devastating and tragic brings out the absolute best in people. Unbounded love, bottomless compassion, and a desperate desire to help and soothe. Likewise, as I am overwhelmed with sadness at the loss of Michael, the thing that keeps popping into my head, and I know so many of you do agree, is his laugh. It was bigger than a giggle and kinder than a cackle. And those of us who knew him can hear it and will remember it, and it brings laughter along with it. Big brother, big heart, big laugh, big hit.